I didn't expect this coming, but actually, I started loving my corporate job again after my solo trip. I realized that the problem wasn't my 9 to 5, it was the fact that I had let my career become my entire identity. My name is Mondy, and I have stopped seeing corporate life as a trap. I see it as venture capital. It's the foundation bankrolling the life I'm architecting for 2026. We're at that late December transition point where it's easy to just carry old habits into a new year. In a 9 to 5, especially as a consultant, you're constantly adapting to everyone else's expectations while your own goals stay on the back burner. It's the ultimate autopilot. I hit a point where I refused to just keep going, so I booked a solo flight. I wasn't traveling for tourism or numbed the stress this time. I was traveling to work on myself. Most people travel to forget their lives. I went to engage with mine. I just needed solitude to stop going with the flow and start intentionally strategizing my future. One day I realized that the way you describe your job to your friends when you're just hanging out, that's usually the most honest version of how you're feeling. I started paying attention to how I actually talked about my work when I wasn't trying to sound professional. I've noticed three types of people. There are the ones who are fully on solving problems even during lunch and over a coffee. Then there are the ones who take work tea even to the dinner table. And honestly, if you're gossiping about work, you're still low-key invested. You care enough for it to take up space in your head. And then there are those who summarize their entire work week in a single sentence. They've drawn a line. They've realized that work is just a thing that they do to fund their life. It's not something they take home with them. And that's a totally valid way to live. Your career doesn't have to define your soul, it can simply be the sponsor for the life you actually want. Think of your salary as venture capital for your real passions. But there's the tension. Even if your job is just a sponsor, you can't fully escape that identity. Since the moment you meet someone new, the first question is always, so what do you do? This is where professional branding is born. In that moment, you aren't just a person with a paycheck, you literally become the title on your LinkedIn profile. This solo trip was my chance to look at that branding without the corporate noise. I had to ask myself, do I actually align with the image I'm projecting? Even if a job is just a sponsor, your values and your daily tasks still need to be in sync. Otherwise, you're just a founder with a bad business partner. I realized that fixing my career wasn't going to happen by accident. I needed a system to bridge the gap between where I am and where I want to be. So I sat down and ran a full audit on myself. So here are my 3 tips on how to travel solo to become a better version of yourself. First, you have to be comfortable being alone. As humans, we're wired for connection, but for this trip, I intentionally set my alone time like it was an important meeting. I blocked out windows of time specifically for my own thoughts. Back home, our thoughts are rarely our own. They are voices of our managers' expectations, our friends' opinions, and the endless scroll of social media. As an employee, you are constantly working on other people's problems. Your own inner voice gets pushed into the background noise. Intentional solitude is the only way to recalibrate that frequency. I did this by designating at least 4 hours a day of personal work, eventually turning that deep reflection work into clarity. But I quickly realized that being too caught up in your own thoughts is actually counterproductive and can turn into a loop of analysis paralysis. When you spend all day debugging your life without any external exchange, your mind becomes an echo chamber of your own anxieties. You stop finding solutions and just start circling the same problems. I found that having a mix of personal work and leisure is the only way to stay fueled. If you spend the whole time auditing your life, you'll burn out on your own vacation. But if you spend it all relaxing, you'll head home with the same questions you arrived with. Which brings me to my next point. To break that loop, I had to look outward. When you're solo, you're forced to engage. You project an openness that makes you approachable. When I'm with friends, people are less likely to approach me because I'm already taken socially. Strangers are way less likely to come up to me, since approaching more people takes way more courage than most people have. But when I'm alone, my energy is just much more open. People feel like they can actually talk to me, and it forces me to be more proactive as well. It's like being solo makes you instantly accessible. I used that openness to talk to complete strangers who were living entirely different lives from mine. Back home, your perspective oftentimes becomes limited by the people around you, having those same conversations over and over again. But in a foreign environment, that circle is gone. I ended up having these raw conversations with students about their unfiltered ambitions, with retired employees about the actual trade-offs they made between passion and salary, and with entrepreneurs about career pivots. The goal wasn't just to be social, it was to see what actually drives people with different backgrounds when you strip away that corporate titles and the expectations of your usual circle. And surprisingly, those conversations didn't make me feel behind, they grounded me. They reminded me that I'm not on the wrong path at all. Listening to people talk about what they were chasing, what they had sacrificed, or what they were still searching for gave me perspective. I realized that in many ways, I'm already further along than what I give myself credit for. I have something a lot of people are still trying to build, and that's stability. And that matters more than we like to admit, because income isn't the dream, it's the foundation. It's the door that opens everything else. Having consistent income means I'm not just surviving, it means I have room to think, to plan, and to choose. It's the funding for the life I want to build, not the final destination, but the base it stands on. That trip didn't make me want more for the sake of more. It taught me to respect what I already have. I came back with a quieter confidence. I don't need to chase harder out of fear. I need to build intentionally from a place of gratitude, knowing that what I have right now is already supporting something bigger. The final piece of puzzle was simply changing the scenery. One of the best parts of solo travel is the total freedom of choice. There is no consensus to reach, so you can just go where the energy is. I've noticed that new environments literally spark new neural pathways. Standing on a hill overlooking a city feels different than sitting in a boutique hotel restaurant. Each change in landscape helped me process a different part of my audit. Back home, my environment is designed for productivity. Here, it was designed for perspective. Changing the horizon didn't just give me better views, it gave me the mental space to step back into my life with appreciation instead of just more ambition. Coming home doesn't mean the work is over. It's when the actual work starts. It's about taking everything I realized on this trip and applying it to my real life. This trip taught me that a career audit isn't always about finding a way out. Sometimes it's about finding a way in. It's about realizing the life you've built is worth living. I'm going back to my desk with a different energy. My job is a great sponsor for my freedom, and I'm proud of the work I do. If you're feeling that autopilot creep in, my advice is to take yourself offline, even if it's just for a weekend. You don't need to quit your job to find clarity. You just need to change your perspective long enough to remember why you started. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope this video inspired you to see solo travel as a way to find clarity in your career and maybe even reconnect with purpose in your 9 to 5. If you would like to follow my journey as I build my dream life, I would love to have you here.
The mini file system.
Okay.
Also find
Keep
the
on reading.
security.